All right, so another one of my favorite sayings that you will hear me repeat to my throwers all the time is the way that you start is the way that you finish. Now, what do I mean by that? The way that you start is the way that you finish. Well, you have to kind of be able to trace back in the circle and see where things may have gone wrong. So one of those ways is going to be with glide shot. The way that you start is the way that you finish. So if you have an athlete, one of the most common problems with glide shot putters when they first start out is that they are way too tall in the middle, they don't have any of their weight back, and they are on a straight leg. So all their weight is kind of shifted back and they really aren't able to get any force or power out of this position. And the coaches will say, well, you're standing up too tall in the middle. And then you go and look at how they look in the back of the circle, and a lot of coaches have their athletes starting like this with their glide, okay? Or they have their arm up in the air like this. And they expect their brand new throwers, their brand new gliders, to go from this position where they're nice and tall and they don't have any weight on their right leg. Notice I can't pick up my left leg until I get to about here. So they don't have any weight on their right leg. They barely are in a good position. They're tall, their arm is up in the air. And then when they get to the middle of the circle, you want them to look like the exact opposite. You want them low, you want all their weight on the right, you want them crouched down in a nice athletic position with their left arm back. The way that you start is the way that you finish. So if you want your athlete to look like that, you want their left arm back. You want all of their weight back on the right leg. You want them in a nice low crouched position. Don't do the opposite in the back of the circle. Make it look similar in the back of the circle. Okay, the other phrase I use all the time, scare the official. What do I mean? Scare the official. Well, if you take a look, you have the official that stands back here with the clipboard or whatever, and they're in the back of the circle. Scare them. Make them think that you're going to foul. Get low. Pretend like you're going to touch outside the circle and foul. Get low. Now look at what position I'm in. Okay, I'm low, just like I need to be when I get to the middle of the circle. My left arm is back, just like it needs to be when I'm in the middle of the circle. All of my weight is on my right leg, just like it needs to be when I get to the middle of the circle. The shot and my head are back behind my power leg, behind my right knee, just like it needs to be when you get to the middle of the circle. So if you start in a good position, more than likely you're going to end up in a good position. The way that you start is the way that you finish. So if you have your gliders starting out like this, looking exactly opposite of where they would be, you're probably thinking to yourself, well, they're going to go from that position. They're good enough athletes to get from that position to a proper power position. You're wrong. That's not what's going to happen. They're going to try to. They're going to struggle to do it. Maybe if they had 3 or 4 years experience, they can do it. But when they're first starting out, when they've been with you for a season or two, and they're just getting going in the sport, the way that you start is the way that you finish. Starting nice and tall, head up, chest up, without a lot of weight on your right leg is not going to translate to low, legs bent, left arm back. It's just not going to happen, okay? It's going to be extremely rare that you have an athlete that is athletic enough or good enough to get from that tall position with their arm over their head and not enough weight on their right to a low position with their left arm back behind them with all of their weight on the right. Is that possible? Maybe 1 out of 10 athletes, but for the majority of your athletes, the way you start is the way you're going to end up. The way you start is the way you finish, and you have to train them that way. You have to coach them that way.